Equal blimey, governor. Right. Hello. I've been asked by a couple of people now to just take just go through one of my images that I recently shared. People just asking how I put it together. Somebody did ask to have a look at the layers. So that's what I'm going to do now. I shall take you through it when I find the right screen. There we go. So let's go there. So this is it. This image I put together because I was bored, and I hadn't took any pictures for a while. Nothing of note. So I took some old pictures and banged them together in an image. This is the result. I'll take you through it very slowly. Not very slowly. God, that'd be so boring. It's boring anyway, listening to me. But let's have a look at the images. So let's start with the background. The background. This is a poppy field. Let's pull the original out. Where have I got the original? Have I got it anywhere? Let's have a look. Bear with me. Sorry, I should be more organised, shouldn't I, for this? Artifacts. Oh, there we go. This is it. So that's the original. I took that in Minworth with a friend called Kerry. If you see this, Kerry, hello. We went out to take some pictures of poppy fields. Never really happy with them, but always thought, you know what, this could end up being a foreground or used as a component in something. So there you go. There's that. So that's the background, or the foreground in the back in the background. Does that make any sense? Anyway, yeah, it's the foreground. And then I added this, and this I took at Derwent Water. Let me find that for you. Working. So bear with me. I've just got to dig that one out. I've got it as an image somewhere. There we go. So that's it. That's not the raw image. That is, unlike the other one, I think that was a raw image. This one is a completed edited image. So this I took at Derwent Water. It's quite a famous scene, I suppose. Nice and lucky with those clouds, I think. About a 2-minute exposure. You'll see that the water there is nice and still, pulling out these nice reflections. 2-minute exposure. And in fact, what I may have done, and thinking back, I probably did. If you look here, these are quite sharp. They're not too blurry. So I think this is a composite in itself. Whereas I took several images, some long exposure. So it's all on a tripod, obviously, with long exposures. So several images in the same spot. Some of them would have been quite a fair old shutter speed to capture these without any movement, and I just blended those in later. I suppose the easier thing would have just been clone them out entirely, but anyway, I chose to do that. And now I'm looking at this, I see that spot there. That's quite distracting, isn't it? That hot spot. That's interesting. Not spotted that before. Anyway, so that's the background. What I did with the background is I've got two of them. So this one is slightly blurred because it's in the distance, and you wouldn't expect it, something in the distance to be in focus if the foreground is. Generally speaking, I just think that helped the whole image come together. Some adjustment layers here next as we work up our layer panel here. This colour balance is to try and tie the colour grading in with the foreground, and that's just to make sure that we don't miss that photo. So I don't want it to be the focal point, but I do want it to be noticed. I don't want it to just disappear. Then I come to some textures. So working with composites, if in doubt, throw a texture. It's almost formulaic, but there you go. So there's a couple of textures here. Let's have a look at them. Let's go to soft light. Let's put it normal, 48% to 100%. Yeah. I know what this is. This one I think is this was the ground outside Highbury Hall. I went to Highbury Hall and I took a load of textures there. That's not what I went to take pictures of. But this is the ground outside, and there was leaves and all sorts all over it, and I cloned them out, and I was left with this, which was quite a nice texture. So that's that one. Soft light, I think I said on that. And this is another texture. Let's have a look at it. Soft light is past 100%. And that's a metal, at the Highbury Hall again. This is a metal door, or a metal panel. It's like on, it's like a door that was on the ground, like a cellar door to a pub. It was like that, like a trap door. And that's that anyway. Oh, I can't remember what I set that to. There, what the heck. That'll do for now. So those textures, I think, just give it that painterly feel. If you look at it, and especially with the blurred background, it starts to feel a bit painterly. So that's our background. So we've got a foreground, background, both taken there, and our subject was taken in the studio, and that's Ellie. And this group here is all of Ellie. So you can see here. So if I come to this, let's turn the what's it off, the layer mask. You can see that's in the background. And you can see some of a mistake in my editing. I thought I was painting there on or erasing a bit of the layer mask. What I was actually doing was erasing a bit of the picture, but what the heck, it still worked out. So that's that. Let's turn our layer mask on. So that's Ellie. Obviously, I cut. Did I do that on the? No, I did it down here. So yes, so when I cut out Ellie there, and I put some, I cut around some of these plants to give it the illusion that she's in that grass. And by the way, these poppies are well over waist height. So I really cheated here. It looks like she's stood up to her knees. I mean, in reality, she'd have been stood up to it sort of at least waist height, more like chest height, quite frankly, as I recall. But anyway, that's me being economical with the truth, and you can do that in photography. So yeah, I added a shadow because that there, if you look, I'll turn that layer back off and on. That shadow would be there if she was in that grass. It'd be darker. You might even see some of the green light bounce back and reflected on it, but I've not put that in. And just I thought there was a bit too much contrast in the studio shot compared to the rest of the image, so I took some of that contrast out. I used the layers for that. A layer, of course, it's a layer. It's an adjustment layer. I used a curves layer. There you go. Don't need to see all of these, to be honest, but as they're there, I might as well explain them. So this remove hotspot. So if I turn that off and on, so I noticed, I don't know where that came from. But if you look there, I'll turn it off and on. Hopefully you can see my little cursor zooming around. So yeah, I got rid of that hotspot. It was a bit distracting. Some high pass sharpening here. Google that if you've never come across it. Yeah, it's probably my go-to sharpening technique because it's so adjustable. It's non-destructive. You can play with it once you've done it. So I tend to use high pass sharpening. There may be better, in inverted commas, ways of doing it nowadays with different tooling, but stick to what you know if it works, and I do. So in cutting Ellie out, I'm going to remove that because I don't like that one. I drew her hair back in, so you can see that, and because it's easier to do that than cut her out. Let's remove all the hair. So yeah, doesn't look all that natural. But yeah, if you draw it back in and blur it, which is what I did, it isn't perfect, but does it need to be? This isn't. I'm not looking for photorealistic in this. I'm looking for an interpretation and arty. And you want something imperfect in art, and not only that, I'm lazy. So it gives me an excuse to be lazy, and I'll take that anytime. Right, curves layer. What's this one for? Oh, it's for her eyes. Yeah, so just to pick her eyes out a bit. Probably looks a bit unnatural there. But if you zoom out, I think it's not quite so unnatural. Yeah, it looks alright. So that's Ellie. Bit of work put into that just to blend her, you know, have a fit into the background and it look somewhere near natural. Let's turn this group on. So this next group is all adjustment layers. I'll turn them off one at a time and we'll go through them. Texture. Oops. So yeah, so this group here is mist. Yep. So I added, and that is just drawn on with a brush. Quite frankly, let's quickly add a layer and fill it with black, and you can see the mist then. So opacity 36, 80%. So I drew that on with a brush. Not a standard round brush; it's a texture brush. It's not even a texture brush; it's a brush, a cloud brush that I often use. Go and have a look on the Adobe stock website. There's usually free brushes you can download that do all sorts of things for you. Recommend you go and have a look at them. Let's get rid of that for a second. Oh no, let's leave it on because I think these ones are mist as well. Let's have a look. There you go, some more mist. So yeah, that's just drawn on to suit the scene. So if I pull that out, there you go, you can see it. This next layer here, to do with this, now I enter my images into competitions a lot, and we call that judge bait. A judge will look at that and say, oh, right on the edge there, that's a bit distracting, you know, that one on its own. So I clone that out, give the judge less to talk about. These two textures, I'll have to zoom in so you can see them, I think. These two textures I put on, and I opted not to use this one. This is just one of the filter. If you go to filter gallery, you've got textures and things. That's all it is. Now this one is the canvas, and it does look like if you look at it, it does look a bit like a canvas, so it might have been drawn on. But because it's repeating patterns, I wanted more random, so I just put some noise in. That does the job. Helps with composites to put just a little bit of texture across the whole image. It helps key it together. You can see there's a little bit of an imperfection there. Zoom in, see that cutting out? There's probably a bit too much feather there. What the heck? I'll live with it. Could be too perfect with these, you know. Play with them for ever and a day, but I don't know. I don't really see it, so I'll leave it in there. I'm sure a judge will pick it up. Right, so so far so good. You know, as I put these together, very often, well, I have a plan. I start out with a plan, but as that plan evolves, you know, you have to see the way the image sometimes doesn't start to key together with the way you're editing it and the layers you're putting in and the adjustments you're putting in, and you have to start playing backwards and forwards to get somewhere near right, and that's what this lot will be. So I put a colour lookup in there. So this is it. Candlelight is the LUT file I used. It's a standard one that comes with Photoshop, so feel free to use it. I liked the effect, but it just seemed a bit too it just took too much of the contrast out for me, but I do like the effect and the tones it gives, and it keys again as colour grading goes, it keys it all together. I wanted a bit more punch in the poppies, so if I turn that off and on, you should see the poppies just get a bit, I don't know whether it'll come through on video, but the red just pops out a little bit more. I did that just with a simple hue saturation layer and just punched up the reds, masked it out so it only affected the foreground. Once I've done that, I put another colour lookup, and this one was to add the contrast. I could have done that with a number of ways, but I find sometimes layering up these colour lookup tables, and again I think, yep, crisp winter look, that helps. That's just another standard one You can create your own lookup tables if you ever want to do it. It's up here, edit. It's a really easy thing to do, but I'd Google it first and go on YouTube or something, because it depends on how you put your layers together and how successful it'll be. But anyway, go and have a look. Okay, so back to my image. So far so good. You know, we started putting together. We started off with a background, put our subject in, and you know, did some localized adjustments for both of those, and these are the global ones. So coming back here, especially with a square format image, I find a vignette works well. There's a million ways to do a vignette. I can think of about 6 or 7 off the top of my head, put it that way. So not quite a million, but 6 or 7 off the top of my head are ways of doing vignettes. You can do them with filter raw as a camera raw as a filter, and use lots of different adjustment layers. You can even paint black and change the blending mode onto a separate layer. Anyway, long story short, I used the curves layer. I just dropped the shadows right down, dropped the highlights right down, and if I turn the layer mask off and push the opacity up, you'll see the effect it has. Now that's rubbish, isn't it? And even if I put the layer mask back in, it still looks rubbish. Way too harsh. So I just dropped the opacity of the layer down to about 24%. That does it for me. In terms of creating the mask, the way I tend to do this is I'll draw what I want on there, and I'll draw it sharp so there's no feathering. And on this one, I just use the ellipse tool. So if I come down to what it looked like, yeah, nice and sharp, and then I feather it in the properties panel of the layer mask. Because I've got some adjustment, I can adjust it up and down all day. You know, non-destructive, and you can play with it. If you put the feather into the brush, you're a bit stuck with it, kind of thing. So anyway, that's just me. Yeah. Again, I just felt when I was looking at this, it needed a tone to bring it all together, and I used a photo filter, just that colour, density 66%, and then obviously I dropped the opacity on this just to make it really subtle, so it's hardly noticeable really. You can see it in the reds, so those reds that I made punch, I just dropped them down a little bit now. And then I added some contrast, but I didn't bring the it was, you can see there, you know, I didn't bring the shadows down too much. I left them there, but did bring the highlights up. You can see what it's done to my histogram up here. See that where data's missing? That's generally speaking when you know you've over processed something, but I can live with that. Looks okay. Okay, just finishing off now. Let's zoom into Ellie's noggin, and that's because I just wanted to, you know, when you zoomed out, the face blends in a little bit, if you see what I mean. You know, features. So I wanted to make a features punch. So give a you know, a feature some depth, make them more realistic, quite frankly, or you know. So a bit of dodging and burning I did to that, because you can see where I burned in some shadows to give a face definition, that kind of thing. Okay, yet another texture, and I don't know what texture this is, but oops, let's have a look. Yeah, it's another metal panel. It might even be the same one actually, in a slightly different position. So, oops. There you go, 25%. What's this? Let's have a look. Zoom in. Oh, I think I felt I'd lost my little hut a little bit. Yeah, I did. So, just brighten up the hut a little bit so it stood out. That's all that one is. So as I say, it's yeah, a lot of this is do something, see if there's an impact, and rectify that impact. So I ended up with quite a number of layers. We could probably drop some of these down, but I don't know. And that gave us my finished article. I tend to finish my images off with a key line, because they go into competition, they're often projected, and especially if they've got dark edges, the judges like to know where the image finishes. Not only that, I like it sort of frames them. I quite like them anyway from an aesthetic point of view. So I tend to have them. I don't know how you guys do the key line, but I can show you how I do mine very quickly. Just an empty layer, just create a new layer, fill it with any colour you like. Then open up the layer properties, the blending options. I happen to know this stroke is the one I want because I've created a few, and all that stroke does is it creates a stroke of 3 pixels inside the image, or on the outside. Color white, opacity 100%, and it's there. So you've now got your key line, but obviously what you've got is a key line around a colour. That happens to be my foreground colour. So the way you get rid of the colour is to use your fill. So if you use fill and opacity, seem to do the same thing, don't they? But if you drop the opacity, you can see it also drops the key line. It drops the blending option. Now fill works in a similar way, but what fill does is leave any blending options you put in there, any layer properties. So the layer property on this one being this stroke, this key line. So if I remove the opacity, it removes everything bar my blending option. So dead easy to do. Even longhand you can do it quite quickly, but I create actions for anything I do a lot of. So there you go, there's my key line action. So I press play and I got my new key line. Yay! So, and there it is. Just get rid of it. So there you go. That's the whole image end to end. A lot of this is personal choice. There's no science behind it. It's you play with them until they look right. If you've not done this sort of thing before, I would say have a look at how textures can hold an image together, and have a look at cheating. So drawing hair in rather than cutting it out, that kind of thing. The more you cheat, the happier you'll be, especially if you're lazy like me. So that's it. Right, now I've whittled on for God knows how long. We'll call that a day. I hope that helped. I will say one more thing actually. Let's go to home. Once you've got the background, you can use it more than once. So I put another model in called Sarah. I quite like this one. I think it works quite well for the background. Who else? And I put one in from Callie. Another of my favourite models, Callie. I've worked with her a couple of times and she's really good, really good. Very professional. Did a slightly different format, probably heavier on the textures on this one. Yeah, liked it. So that's that. Okay, I hope that was of use for you. Thanks for asking. If you've got any questions, feel free to give me a shout. Bye.